Hello, everybody. Let me get everybody turned on, turned up, and so you can hear. It's going to be a fun night today, or morning, or wherever the hell you is that we may be. That was like a drunken version of CC Chris, I think. That was bad. That was terrible. All right, let's make sure we got people. There's JL. Tony, I think I got you turned on.
Tony's always turned on.
Tony is always turned on. All right. Quick thumbs up in the chat if you can hear everybody.
That's why Tony's camera set so high. Set any lower, you see that tent pole.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. Sweet. All right, so who we have here? Foes here. Let's party. Oh, shit.
That's how we started the show. Highbrow every time.
Highbrow. Well, good, whatever it is for you, everybody. It is time for the Four Beardsmen. Well, I guess the Three Beardsmen, because as you can tell, we're missing one. So that's the way it goes.
Are we really missing Irish? I mean, this is a deep philosophical question.
This is true. Echo. Oh, you might be hearing some from PhD Tony's,
You're going somewhere with that joke. I'm not sure where you're going.
Am I?
He says I have a weird echo.
You are a weird echo. Let me see. Let me make sure. I'm not getting anything else from anybody. I think it's just a little bit of bleed through. So.
Says that I sound like I am in an echo chamber.
Do you?
That's what Seven Paul has said.
I see, said the blind man.
To his deaf daughter as he picked up his hammer and saw.
To his what? Let's see, hang on a second. Alright, let's see if that fixes it. Make sure everybody can be heard. Let me see. JL, say something?
It does sound he is echoing.
Okay.
I don't hear anybody echoing on my end. So.
Well, you're not echoing now.
Is that better?
Awesome. That's a good thing.
Well.
I got a haircut today.
Fuck off. What haircut? You damn chia pet.
Yes, I guess.
Is that better, everybody? Are we good? Are we good now? Or do I need
This is too long for me. So.
I need to continue to fix it.
I felt so bad. Yesterday I wanted to stop by.
Okay, so we still have.
JL has a demonic voice now.
Let me see here.
I'm assuming that Johnny is playing around with the audio.
What's that?
I hear somebody laughing in the background.
Okay, yes, JL is still echoing in the stream.
Still echoing in the stream.
Is anybody out there?
Yeah.
I'm all alone.
Damn.
It's cold.
This is what happens when you rearrange all your stuff and everything gets like changed.
Why would you rearrange everything?
Oh, why? Why would you
set it once and be done?
To fill the void as somebody went to go get their quote wake up juice unquote.
I did. I needed it.
Cocaine.
Yes.
I gotta be awake when I do your ass.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, that's undoubtedly true.
Shots fired.
If I go into it half cocked, I'm done.
You can't believe. Dear.
Oh.
Yeah, damn it.
It's Irish's fault.
It is.
Everything is Irish's fault.
We're gonna blame Irish.
Seven Paul says, check your audio mixer. It sounds like JL's being sent through multiple mics.
How's that? Is that better for everybody?
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
So give me a thumbs up if we're good. Miss Monster can't wait to get paid from the boss lady.
JL is good now. Yay. It's always better when I'm good.
It's always better when you're good. Yep, there we go. Cool. Fixed it.
Sweet.
All right. So what's been going on? This week has been kind of a quiet week.
That's a
And
great thing.
Yeah.
by comparison,
By comparison
God.
to the week before. Yeah.
yeah. So Irish Demon has dropped a super chat with his feeble excuse that he's out with hay fever.
Yep.
Hay fever.
Hay fever.
Yeah.
That's an excuse.
Yep. Disliked because the sexy one is out with hay fever. But I'm right here. What are you talking about?
Yes. There's a there are multiple statements wrong with that.
Right. So actually, I think it was PhD Tony that was voted by the viewers as the sexiest of the beardsmen. So
I consider this to be a scathing indictment of our viewership more than a representation of reality.
Hey, I'm happy. I came in second every time. So
you came
I'm
in
good.
second every time. Yeah. Who came in last?
You, I think.
Or was it me?
Was it you? I think. Well, actually, I think it was you the first time, and I think it was Iris the second time.
No, I think it was the other way around. It was Iris the first time.
Iris the first time, then
Well,
you the second
no,
time.
it was actually Iris both times. I just
Both
gave it
times?
to him. I just gave it to him the first time. All right.
Oh, look at that! Peter Collings has mentioned J.L. Warren. Watch The Hitcher again after your stream the other day. Thanks for bringing that back to me. That is the whole reason. That right there is the reason we do that show. Is recommending movies that people may not have seen for a while, people may have never seen, and just bringing some really, really awesome horror movies to people's attention. Sometimes they're really, really shit horror movies, but that's the whole purpose of that. That right there is the purpose fulfilled. So thank you, Peter Collins. I appreciate that so much. That means the world that we could bring that up to you. So I'm glad you enjoyed it.
And Irish Demon also sounds like a prolapse, according to Peter Collins. So.
Oh my god! The pink sock of the Four Beardsmen.
Oh Jesus! Oh man!
I didn't see that look on Tony's face.
I'm just going to zone out of this. We're going to emerge out of the dark tunnel that this conversation has descended into.
The colorectum. You know what comes out of there, right?
Oh jeez!
I was thinking more of the tunnel scene from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which is an underappreciated horror moment.
That's an appreciated horror moment. That's good. I think that's one of the things that scarred me in my childhood.
I think you mean Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka.
I probably do.
Because Charlie and the Chocolate Factory
the Gene Wilder one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Gene Wilder one, yes.
Yeah. Is that Crafty? Hi, Crafty. Good to see you.
Crafty Keela. So on a more serious note, Tony, I did have something I wanted to run by you. So
Yes.
in our little chat, I posted up a more refined version of my syllogism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've been going over that for some time now, trying to
Mm-hmm.
try to shore it up. And so you mentioned that I actually went. I don't want to lose anything because this is really, really important. So I'm actually gonna pull it up. So you said I would argue that there exist things we are not yet able to detect. Our inability to detect them does not mean that they do not exist. So I'm trying to understand. If we cannot detect something and we cannot observe it, we cannot
presently observe it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. We have to be careful.
Does that not meet the criteria of non-existence?
No.
Because we cannot confirm that it does or does not exist. It's still hypothesis.
So so for instance, if you think of let's go back in time 300 years, right, where they didn't have the ability to detect individual photons or electrons. That doesn't mean that electrons didn't exist. It merely means that they couldn't detect them, right? And there are, there are presumably subatomic particles. In fact, I came across something the other day that they might have found another fundamental subatomic particle called an anion or an ennion. But just because we haven't yet identified these things doesn't mean that they don't necessarily exist. And the same's true in a number of other areas. I mean, for instance,
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it doesn't mean that they don't necessarily exist, but we haven't confirmed their existence yet.
Yeah,
correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So by that rationale, they technically do not exist until we have confirmed that they exist. They are hypothetical.
No, that's
we
hypothesize
not their existence.
No. You've got it asked backwards. They exist independent of our ability to detect them.
How do we know that?
We don't. That this is the thing. Your axiom requires that we be completely well informed about what does or does not exist within the universe, and we aren't.
But we were informed to a point where we can definitely say we definitely draw a line of demarcation between what is real and what is imaginary, between what is demonstrable and what is non-demonstrable or undetectable. So the point is,
if I may, I think you would be better off taking your argument in a different direction, because one of the arguments that the religious would come up with is that God is very much detectable. They would suggest that he is real, he does have an influence. And your argument would be, well, you claim that, but you can't demonstrate it, and there's no mechanism for demonstrating it.
The argument there is that they are misappropriating natural phenomena and then applying something else to it when we already have an explanation. So they're substituting a reality. They're rejecting a reality and replacing it with their own, and that's demonstrable.
Yes, backed up. But that doesn't justify what you're saying, that if we can't perceive something, it doesn't exist, it can be. Yes, but in our inability to detect something does not mean that it does not exist, right? There are. So, for instance, we can't. There's a limit to the resolution with which we can detect physical properties of Earth's interior. That doesn't mean that there aren't anisotropies below the size that we can currently resolve. And in fact, there's always going to be that limit, because there's a limit to the degree of resolution that you can get out of seismic waves. So there's always going to be a hard limit on how much we can resolve about the interior structure of Earth. But that isn't to say that just because we can't detect those things don't exist.
That's why I mentioned in the syllogism that we can detect things directly or indirectly. Very, very akin to how we discovered it when we first hypothesized when black holes.
But I think you just missed my point. We're never going. There's a level of detail below which we're never going to be able to resolve the interior of the Earth.
Hang
on, JL, just a second. Let Tony finish his.
Point. He was restating his previous point. But
right, I understand, but I feel like neither one of you have completed your thought really quick. So I'm getting my mod mode on.
Okay, so it's like using light to try and detect electrons. Okay, there was a point at which the light, the interaction of light with objects was the only way that we could really see objects. We could touch them, we could hit them with stuff, and that sort of thing. But light was our most refined tool for detecting things. But there are limits to the wavelength of light. And so there's a limit to resolving power. And it's the same with sound waves going into the Earth. They have a limited frequency range. They therefore have a limited wavelength, a limited band of wavelengths associated with them. Stuff that is sufficiently smaller than the wavelengths of the seismic waves is never going to show up. You're never really going to have a good idea about it. And, that doesn't mean that stuff doesn't exist, right? That just means that we're never going to know one way or another about it. So we can't detect fine resolution about Earth's deep interior, and we're very unlikely to ever be able to. That doesn't mean that Earth's interior doesn't have fine detail.
I think that's a bad comparison, because we can indirectly detect Earth's interior with the technology that we have today. So that is how we're able to determine.
Yes, but only with a limited resolution, right? You seem to be skipping over the. You seem to be. No, you can't. So if there's a 1 meter across diamond at a depth of 3,000, at a depth of 2,500 kilometers below the Atlantic, we're never going to detect it.
No, but
right?
what I'm saying is that, sure, we can't fine detail the interiors of the Earth, but we do know what it's composed of. We do know the different layers of it. We understand that fundamentally because of how we're able to detect the interior of the Earth utilizing seismography.
So let me ask you a question, JL. Let me ask you a question. And maybe I'm not wrapped my head around both of your points, but in this inability to detect the finer details of the Earth, let's say that there is a fish. We're just going to say a fish that has never been detected by us. Does that fish not exist because we can't detect it based on the finer details, the finer points of what Tony and you are talking about?
Well, what I'm talking about is the logical conclusion to a thing. So yes, so imagine that there's a fish, for hypothetical circumstances. There's a fish in the ocean that we have never detected. We are unaware of this species. We have never photographed it, seen it, or detected it in any manner. For all intents and purposes, this hypothetical fish meets the criteria of non-existence until it is discovered, until it is detected. So once that's why we have.
But it still exists, right?
It does, but it doesn't exist to us yet. Okay, as from a metaphysical standpoint, we can argue that it exists. From a logical standpoint, it does not. It meets the criteria of non-existence because we cannot detect it either directly or indirectly. We cannot measure or observe its effects. The phenomena of the fish has not occurred yet to us. So therefore, it's a hypothetical fish and is not an objectively real fish because we have not detected it yet.
So that's a curiously anthropocentric viewpoint. I would argue that just because we can't tell one way or the other, anthropocentric the world would exist if there were no humans on it, right?
Yes.
We
assume it would. That's an assumption. That's a logical assumption.
It's not a logical assumption.
That is a logical assumption because if there were no humans to perceive it, how would we know it still existed?
See, now we're getting into that. Now we're getting into that if the tree falls in the woods.
That's a weird and logically flawed definition of existence. Existence. Something exists only if some human somewhere is aware of it. Now you've got to define exactly what it is, what is or is not a human, and you've got to define what it is for a human to know something and to know something that is in fact true, because what humans know need not be actually true. Now, that statement in and of itself applies that the truth or otherwise of a logical statement is independent of human perception, human understanding of it, right? So I don't, I think you can be derailed here. But
that falls to the whole, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it really make a sound? Well, yeah, it still makes a sound. Just because
demonstrably.
We're not there. Right, exactly.
Yes. Because we know that we know that it emits a sound. Whether or not there's something there to pick up the sound waves that are emitted from the collision of the tree and the ground is different state of it. But the point is that working. Okay, I think the issue that we're having here is I'm operating within the very narrow band of empiricism and materialism, and the logical conclusions that we can that we have within that field without straying into metaphysics and what could be or what could possibly be without our ability here to perceive it or to understand it, and that things that exist outside of the realm of our being, outside of the realm of our existence. So when humans are like, okay, so yes, I can logically assume, and I make the reasonable assumption that when I die, that everything else will continue on, that the world will continue on, the world will keep spinning. This is a logical assumption. This is a logical, reasonable assumption, because when my dad died, the world kept spinning. When his dad died, the world kept spinning. And then when another person that I know, when they died, the world kept spinning, kept going on. To them, it ended, but to me, it still goes on. But when I go, to Johnny or to you, the world will continue to spin. So that is a logical assumption to make, that the reality will persist. But the reality ends for me. It is over and done. There is no more. So if you remove all humans from that equation,
maybe
every single. Possibly, but I see that's the whole point. We can make the logical assumption. It is still an assumption, okay? Because we cannot rule out hard solipsism. We cannot rule out absolutely hard solipsism.
If you're going to take that attitude, then I don't see how you're going to make any logical ground at all, right? If you're going to allow the possibility that the existence of the universe may turn out to depend critically on the existence of human beings, then I don't see how logically you can turn around and assert that God doesn't exist.
Right.
Because the human beings on whose existence the universe depends could make some claim to having divine powers over it, I don't, I think you're erecting here a logical framework that can be attacked at this point. We have to admit uncertainty over whether or not stuff exists that we can't resolve. Now, there may be a 1 meter diameter diamond deep inside Earth's interior. It doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem that we'll ever know one way or the other. But I can make up whatever other fine resolution detail. We're not going to know that. There is some finite number of diamonds within the Earth. We're never going to know what that number is. But that doesn't allow us to come to the conclusion that they don't exist, simply because we don't know much about them or we can't locate them or whatever. I kind of think that the epistemology here is open to dispute.
And wouldn't your position kind of give credence to young Earth creationism?
Mine?
Yes.
No, absolutely not.
Based on
because we can demonstrably detect the age of the Earth.
Well, you're suggesting that the world didn't really exist until there were humans around to perceive it.
This is part of the evidence that can back this up. That we can reach these logical conclusions that the Earth has a specific age of like 4 point some odd billion years. But things like this, there's evidence to back these things up. I'm talking about what
Yes.
there is. I'm talking about what there is evidence for, and what there is not
Yep.
evidence for. That is the big
Yep.
difference here. If there is evidence for something, it is because we have detected it. Is because we have observed it. We have detected it indirectly or directly. Very similar to black holes. Black holes were a hypothesis at one point. Then we detected the effect of the black hole on the surrounding space. Then we were able to detect the black hole once the technology progressed.
Sorry, you can carry on with your black hole discussion. I just have a point that I'd like to make at the end of it.
Okay, so but that's the progression of technology. Is that we hypothesize a thing because of the mathematics or whatever, and then we look for that thing, and then eventually we're able to either detect the thing directly, like we can see it, or we can observe it, we can measure it, we can do it, or we detect the effect of it on the surrounding environment. Very much like how we can logically conclude that God does not operate from outside our universe into the universe, because we do not see a reversal in thermocyclic workflow. So we know the second law of thermodynamics is not violated in that way, because work is not coming from outside the isolated system. So we know that relationship does not exist, or we can conclude that it does not exist. So therefore, it's all about what we can detect indirectly or directly, what we can observe, what we can measure, and all the things you speak about, like distant celestial objects or subatomic particles, we can detect these things in a way that allows us to hypothesize further things about their existence, but we still are able to detect them in a way because we can detect their effect, like the effect of a thing. Like we see the effect of this thing and say, oh, it could be this. Let's go like this. We see the effect of something. Something exists there. Let's hypothesize about what it is, give it a name, and until we have further understanding, we'll keep studying it. But we still detect the effect. That's the point.
Well, yeah, except absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
But it holds the same logical value as non-existence until proven otherwise.
So Fred Knotts makes a perfect point. Says,
yes, it does.
Hang on a second.
No, JL, I'm writing a paper at the moment, and you can tell me all you want that I'm wrong about the paper that I'm writing. I'm not going to accept it, right? And so please allow me to make my point before shouting it down. Fred Knotts, I think that's an unfair summary of what JL just said.
I was going to bring that in there. So JL says someday tech will prove ghosts.
No.
You're never going to live that down, JL.
Daryl M was even worse. So you're saying, Warren, is that Nathan Oakley could be correct? No.
Oh, Jesus.
No.
So let me come at you from the field of glacial isostatic adjustment.
Yes.
20,000. The Earth for the past few million years has been in glacial cycles, and for the past at least 800,000, those glacial cycles have had a length of approximately 120,000 years. Now there seems to be a reasonably slow build-up and then a rapid deglaciation process. And the large ice sheets produce a deformation pattern, as does the change in the mass of water in the oceans. Now, we can look for, one of the things that we try to do is look at the deformation patterns and see what it can tell us about the relaxation properties of the Earth. The Earth's interior, but we're also trying to better understand the ice sheets. Now, we had a problem when we looked at the European ice sheet, the so-called Fennoscandian ice sheet, because people came along and they said, this area here are these very delicate sediments that come from before the last glacial maximum. Therefore, because there's no evidence of the ice sheet having overridden these sediments, they've been preserved, there's no glacial scouring, there's no deposits of any glacial debris. Therefore, this area must have been ice-free during the last glacial maximum. Okay, we came along and we showed that this area was actually undergoing a substantial amount of uplift that simply couldn't be explained except by having a large amount of ice sheet there. And it turns out that if the base of the ice sheet is really, really cold, the ice gets frozen onto the underlying layer and it doesn't erode anything. It doesn't leave any marks. It doesn't leave any evidence. Now, this we were able to identify that in Europe, but because Europe has a really detailed sea level record. But now we're turning our attention to Antarctica. Antarctica doesn't have a really detailed sea level record, so it doesn't have a deformation record we can use to distinguish between a cold-based or a warm-based ice sheet. Now, a lot of people have gone in and have gone, this is what the evidence tells us the Antarctic ice sheet looked like 20,000 years ago. And we say, okay, well, if the Antarctic ice sheet looked like that, we're missing, 20 meters of global sea level. Where do you think it is? And they've got no answer for that. And our answer is, well, what we reckon happened is that there was a cold-based Antarctic ice sheet that didn't leave any evidence, and it was there, and you just don't have the RSL data to resolve it. Now, one of us is right, or at least partially right, to suggest that cold-based, we can demonstrate in some areas of Antarctica that cold-based conditions very much did apply, because we can date the erosion features and when they stopped or whatever. There is a scientific problem with the idea of sticking only to hypotheses you have evidence for, because you don't, not all physical processes leave a physical trace. It's that simple. And you can claim, well, in that case, it doesn't exist. No, it's quite possible that it did exist. We're just ignorant of whether or not it existed. That's a different thing, right? You can't assert as a logically sound conclusion that something doesn't exist simply because you don't have evidence of it. Reality is not obligated to give you evidence about everything in the universe. And it is logically unsound. Demonstrably, it is counter to reality to make that claim, because there are physical processes that can occur without leaving any evidence.
Okay. Let me get some quick super chats in really quick. So Faux Hammer for $5 says, I was going to spend this on dime bags of 308 ammo for my shooting fix, but I suppose I should support the Beardsmen or whatever instead. Many thanks. For another $2, says, this conversation makes me need neat Everclear. I would not suggest that to anyone. Always dilute your Everclear. And then Stevie B for her €2 says, testing. Yep, it works.
So, wow, I've been listening to you way too much. I was able to follow everything you said.
No, that's a good thing. That means we're getting smarter, JL.
Yes. So, but you were able to come to the conclusion because you were able to detect effects outside of what was directly being tested. So the glacier itself, the ice sheet itself, was directly being tested, and there was missing data, and we were seeing an effect in one place that we were not seeing in another place. And so the comparison says, "Oh, but this elicits more questions." It's like, why are we seeing this? It's very weird. But we can take data from other areas that we can detect. So in essence, you are detecting you're making an indirect detection of why this ice sheet is acting in this way. Okay?
I am inferring stuff, but what I inferred, the logical, you're looking at these things like it's a binary thing. it's true or false. The law of excluded middle definitely applies. And reality is a little bit fuzzier. We have degrees of certainty about what we know. And there are degrees to which we don't know stuff. And sometimes these are quite considerable. That's the point that I'm trying to make. I don't feel like, unless something major happens, we're never going to have the sea level data from Antarctica because of just the way the setting works. Most of the area where sea level indicators could have formed were on the continental shelf and have been inundated. They're now under 500 meters of water. So they're difficult to access, and it's very likely that any sea level indicators are gone. There's very little biological productivity in Antarctica because it's so cold. So even if you can find something, it's very unlikely to have datable material near it. So there are all sorts of limitations on our ability to interpret the data, and I think that people have been guilty of overstating just how certain they are about the data they're interpreting.
You gotta get a paper published. I mean,
yes. Well, that's what I'm working towards now.
So we've got a couple of comments one comment and one question from the chat, and we're gonna shift gears and talk about peaches.
Okay.
One of the comments that was made, I forget who made it, was asking about dark matter, how that fits into the whole. If we can't detect it, does it really exist type of thing? Because we can hypothesize that dark matter exists based on the evidence that we have, yet we haven't actually detected it yet.
We've detected the effect of it.
But it doesn't. Just because we've detected the effect of something doesn't mean what we think it is what it is.
Well, it's true.
Yeah,
we can hypothesize about what it is, but we have detected the effect. Just like we detected the effect of black holes before we detected the black holes themselves. Because we detected gravitational lensing before we detected the actual physical black hole itself. Because obviously no light, you can't observe it. So in that respect, that's where I'm going with this, is that there is direct and there is indirect detection. And then we can draw conclusions based upon if it's an indirect detection, we can draw conclusions of that. The purpose of my syllogism is within the band of empiricism and materialism, within the band of evidence, of demonstrable, testable evidence in this, what we observe, this singular reality within the universe, that all things that exist within the universe. Okay, so the concept was that what we perceive here, this reality that we perceive,
it's a hell of a conversation starter, I will tell you that.
This reality that we perceive exists within the universe. That is the thing. Now, if you want to prescribe to the multi-world theory or something of that nature, say that there's multiple realities out there. It's not that there's multiple universes. There can be multiple universes. That's antithetical to the definition of universe, uni. So what you have is you have multiple realities. I think of it like a bubble bath, where you have hundreds of thousands of bubbles all conglomerated together into one big mass, but the tub is the universe, is the point. So there's always one universe. And if there's multiple worlds, it's multiple worlds within one universe. The universe just we expand our definition to include everything. So everything that exists, all energy in space, is included within the universe. And everything that exists within the universe is either matter, energy, or information. Information meaning something that we can detect or measure, which is the effect of something indirectly or directly. So, like comets have information. The information is the description of them, with the measure of their tail, their orbits, or when they crash, and then the effects they have on the things that they crash into. This is all information. So it's either physical, it's either information, matter, or energy. These are the three things that exist within our universe. Okay, anything beyond the realm of this is imaginary. It's things that we have imagined or hypothesized or we theorize or whatever, if you want to use the colloquial term. This is the thing, is coming down to a point where what we can detect, what we cannot detect, how do we determine the difference between what is real and what is imaginary? And we use the things that we can detect. We use the evidence that we have to make novel, testable predictions in order to create models that describe pretty much the territory of our map. And we want to ensure that our internal map, our internal territory, matches the map's territory. That is how we come to these conclusions. And people reaching outside of that in order to justify their personal feelings or their personal incredulity or whatever, or to assuage their fears, is what I'm trying to get at. Is that that's what people are doing? Is that they're reaching outside of the map and outside of the territory and bringing stuff in that they've made up. Is where I'm going with the whole thing.
Mm.
Well, I feel that they're actually doing something different. What I feel, and you quite often see this amongst flirts, for instance, and amongst young Earth creationists and various other anti-science individuals, is that there remain uncertainties in our understanding of the universe. And they suggest that what they want to exist can exist because of these uncertainties. For instance, there was a flat earther arguing that the Sagnac effect experiments don't preclude Earth rotation because we don't really properly understand quantum entanglement. Our understanding of quantum entanglement is a lot better than he suggested. And of course, quantum entanglement has nothing to do with the Sagnac effect. But it is the same style of argument that I think the religious people are going to throw at you in response to this, JL, is that there are things about which we admit as because we are intellectually honest that we are uncertain about. We are uncertain about how many objects there are in the Oort cloud. We are uncertain about, we can make various large-scale statements about, what is in the Oort cloud, how much stuff is in the Oort cloud, how far it extends, etc., etc. But there are limits to what we do know with any reliability and what we're sort of guessing at. And as things get fuzzier, as our instrumentation gets closer to its operational limit, our uncertainty increases. And what a religious person is going to throw at you is that sort of uncertainty space. That I feel that is a tactic that a religious person might throw at you, based on my previous experience.
Well, that's the whole big thing.
Okay. Well, hang on.
Hang on a second.
No. We got to move this. You're killing me, Smalls.
When the syllogism is presented, it's all about attacking the falsity of the premises. Is when it comes down to is that because the syllogism works if the premises are true. So this is true, therefore the conclusion is true. Is how the syllogism is created. So if you can say that a syllogism is false, like my very first syllogism, everything that exists is included within the isolated system called the universe. If it exists, it's inside the universe.
Yes.
That statement is true.
Okay.
That statement is true, but the idea that just because we cannot detect something, that something does not exist is untrue.
That's where we start to get a little faulty. Rib Tickler has a question for PhD Tony. Says, PhD Tony, do you think the Earth has gone past the tipping point? I believe he's talking about climate change.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. It's not impossible. But one of the problems with climate change is that by the time we know that we have gone past the tipping point, it is of course way too late to do anything about it. That's the definition of a tipping point. But we're going to get past it. We're going to go past the tipping point long before we see evidence for having gone past it, because the response of the system is not so rapid that we can get real-time updates on how close.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, PhD Tony. Jessica G has outed you. She's told us exactly what's going on. All right, last question before we move on. Question for Tony. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck use a log splitter?
Well, that's a question better directed to my brother.
Fair enough. Gavlar, the hand of Zod for 5. I think those are pounds. Hey guys, just came in to say have a great show. We'll have to watch later. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. All right, let's see here. Let's talk about peaches.
Yes, you're talking about impeachment, aren't you?
Exactly. Yes, we're going to talk about impeachment. So here's the thing. A lot of people
was too fucking boring.
No. Your subject went for 45 minutes, which is excellent. But we've had a lot of questions in the chat about impeachment, about our thoughts on the impeachment.
Fohammer said, "Thanks for fucking up my question, Johnny."
Sorry, Fohammer. All right.
That was brilliant.
Yep.
Deflation takes a lot out of her. That's good. I like that.
Yep.
See what I did there?
Yeah. All right, so here we go. There
He's
are
gonna tick like a needle.
Yeah. So there are there are a few ideas here about this process and the reason why it's important and the reason why it's not so important. And I can understand both. An impeachment trial is very costly to the American taxpayer. But is it worth it? Is it worth it to pursue? Because we can still impeach even after the fact.
Yes, it is.
I would suggest that actually politicians can go ahead and do their politicking, and the rule of law should be enforced by the legal administration. Now, in this case, the legal administration is done by politicians, impeachment. But I kind of think that we need, basically, I don't see how you can just go, well, this isn't a problem. We can let this go, and there's going to be, no consequences if we just forgive, let bygones be bygones, etc., etc. I don't see how you can pretend that isn't going to do long-lasting damage to the United States. I kind of think that we need to draw a line here. In fact, I believe that the line should have been drawn some time ago, but no sense crying over spilt milk.
Right.
Really, I think that one of the things about the current situation is that people have lost faith in the fact that, somebody might impeach a political opponent because it's good for the country that their opponent be impeached. I really think that we just need to stop considering the political elements of these decisions and just go, okay, is ignoring this good for the country? Is pursuing this good for the country? And in this case, I think that pursuing this is good for the country. I think that it sets boundaries on politicians moving into the future.
So here's the argument. Here's the argument against impeachment. And I think it's a good one not because I don't think he should be impeached, okay? So I think the guy should have been convicted the first time. And that's kind of the point. As it stands right now, we need, a 3/5 vote in the Senate to convict? Am I correct? Or am I missing?
I think it's 60 votes. Yeah.
Okay. So if we need 60 votes, that means after Georgia confirms its election, we would need at least 10 Republicans to vote for conviction. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know if they have enough votes to make it happen. Moscow Mitch is certainly not going to do it.
I refuse to let that be a consideration.
Okay.
I don't consider the corrupt administration of their office, of my political opponents' offices, to inform my decision about whether or not this is best for the country. And
Fair enough.
and as soon as you introduce that as an axiom, I'm going, well, it's irrelevant.
Well, so the relevance comes when we're talking about, are we doing it for show, or are we doing it because we actually want to see the guy get convicted? Some people say yes, we want to see him get convicted. I 100% agree. I'm just presenting both sides of the argument here. So according to historical philosopher, we need 67 votes for conviction. So that means we need 17. We need 17 Republicans to say, yeah, what he did was wrong. I don't think that's going to happen. So this could just end up being an exercise in futility. However, I think is an important thing. My personal opinion is an important thing that should happen. It definitely needs to be heard, and arguments need to be made. There needs to be an investigation. Absolutely, for all the reasons that people have given, to keep him from running for office again, to keep him from pardoning the seditious people who overtook the Capitol building. So,
well, stop that. I mean, he could do it tomorrow.
Yeah,
I don't think he can.
No, he can pardon the individuals that are that have been hit with federal charges for rioting at the Capitol. They are currently seeking him out to do so. The actual from the Guardian, and I actually linked it in our little message deal. I'm facing a prison sentence. U.S. Capitol rioters plead with Trump for pardons. Arrested Trump supporters say that they were listening to the president, which just goes to confirm that they were, that he wasn't.
So let me get this straight. What they want is for Trump to pardon his co-conspirators in a conspiracy that he is currently being impeached for. Yes. I don't think that is within the power of the president. Now I may be extrapolating here, but certainly he cannot pardon himself for an offense that he has been impeached for. That is one of the limitations.
But I think that he could pardon them
before he is convicted.
But in doing so, he would be committing a crime. Okay.
Only if he's actually found guilty. Only if he's found guilty of inciting sedition.
No, that's not true. Conspiracy doesn't require that the conspiracy be successful.
Well, that's true, but he's not guilty yet, and because he's still technically innocent in the eyes of the law. He's been indicted, yes, but he's still innocent in the eyes of the law.
That's not the metric. The metric is whether or not the application of the power is intended to be corrupt.
So would that be? Is that not considered? What is the legal term we're looking for? Obstruction. Wouldn't that could that be considered obstructionist if we were to pardon these people? Because then they wouldn't have to. They would be free from.
I think in doing that, he would be exposing himself to a lot of legal trouble.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a lot of uncharted waters right
now. It's very murky. This is more of a legal discussion than it is anything else.
Right.
Sort of the. But I think we can agree that the most sort of. I kind of think that Biden and his administration should just be focused on doing the best that they can for all Americans, and that especially includes those that have been hard done by over recent years, a lot of whom are Trump voters from the poorer sections of rural and Southern America. And the only way where sort of I can see America healing itself is by showing the people who thought Trump was their savior. Actually, every American feels sympathy for you. It's the corruption in the political system that has prevented it from happening. You happen to vote for somebody who was actually quite corrupt. But we can fix it if you're willing to work with us. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to make that argument, and I think we also need to. But at the same time, you cannot have what happened at the Capitol occurring. You cannot have people taking it upon themselves to conduct an armed insurrection, and come within a hair's breadth of executing
Elected
politicians.
officials, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think that what happened was extremely regrettable but also extremely dangerous. And I don't see that these it's like Jeffrey Dahmer saying what we need is forgiveness and reconciliation, while
Right.
dabbing the brains of his latest victim off his chin. It just it is egregiously self-serving, and but it isn't surprising, and this is the sad reality that we find ourselves in, is that of course Ted Cruz was going to back this up. Of course Lindsey Graham was going to back this up. Of course, the litany of GOP, celebrities was going to back up. Well, Trump did nothing wrong, and this is just an attempt to divide the nation. But it's not outlandish to think that it's not a world away from some Democrat activities at some point. The Democrats, for instance, were perfectly willing to accept a critical vote from a Democratic senator who'd just been found guilty of, who'd just been brought up on charges. He was a fraud that he was ultimately found guilty of. So the whole thing is that people haven't been consistent about doing the right thing and obeying the rule of law. The Democrats haven't been consistent about it, and to the extent that they have failed to do that, they've opened the door for these people to take it even further. So I think we need to start getting back to some sense of accountability and operating the government in the best interests of everyone, not just our political supporters.
So we have a couple of things that are brought up in the chat. Fred Knott says Trump pardoned Roger Stone, and that could have been to cover up the Russia connection, which is, that's true. And then a lot of people are saying that if Trump were to pardon these guys, that would be an admission of guilt. And I can see the reasoning there, because if Trump says, "Hey, I'm going to pardon you guys for sedition," that would be an indirect way of saying, yes, this was sedition. But that doesn't. Hang on.
You're wrong.
Hang on.
You are factually incorrect. You are factually incorrect.
Hang on.
You are factually wrong. What you just said is incorrect.
It's Kelvin over here.
In order to accept a pardon, you have to legally admit your guilt for the charge.
Okay, again, if you're listening to what I'm saying, what I said was for Trump to pardon these guys, that would mean that their sedition would have occurred. That's what I said. I said the exact same thing you just did.
No, you didn't. You said that it would. You said that it would. You said that it would it would be a legal interpretation. No, it wouldn't be a legal interpretation.
I didn't say it was a legal interpretation. I said it would legally mean that they were guilty of sedition, that a seditious act occurred. The issue that I'm having here with what people are saying is that just because Trump pardons these people for sedition doesn't necessarily implicate that he was the one who incited the sedition.
No. No, it doesn't. But
and that's where that kind of weird legalese kind of fits in there, because Again, he could still pardon these people, saying, "Yeah, I'm pardoning them for the seditious act," but that doesn't mean that I'm the one who said, "Hey guys, go do this seditious act." So, just because he pardons them doesn't necessarily mean that he's admitting that he is guilty of sedition.
No, but yeah, I. He's going to. We're going to have a lot of very interesting case law. If Trump ever gets pulled up on charges for some of this stuff.
Absolutely agree.
Because one of the things that is interesting is that having been pardoned, a lot of Trump's co-conspirators now cannot take the fifth. They cannot decline to answer, if they're put on the stand, and if they tell a lie while they're on the stand, they can be charged with perjury. So he's put a lot of these people in a situation where they can be put on the stand, asked to testify, and if they refuse or tell lies, they go to prison. So he's got to
incriminate what you've already admitted.
Right.
Yeah.
There are a lot of legal levers out there that could be pulled if people choose to do so. And there are various state attorneys general who are working on this, and there are still potential problems with impeachment or indeed federal prosecution going forward.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be a case that'll be studied for years in political law, or just law specifically, because it does present a lot of interesting problems. Like JL's fan. Careful, people who may be epileptic. There's a strobe effect going on right now.
Yeah.
So Colon brings up, he posts an interesting question. So he says, what about the info that some of these people think that Trump could become the 19th president on March 4th when the Corporation of America owned by London is broken up? He says he has the video. He's going to share it with me. I mean, Daryl, JL's only fan. That's funny. Is some more soft sit shit? Yeah, that's interesting. I would like to hear their, just because I need something to laugh at, really. 'Cause I can't take that shit serious at all. Even a little bit. What is this here? Yeah, I look forward to that, Cole. I'm going to watch it after this here stream. So yeah. This whole idea that America is a corporation owned by London, not all of Europe, as who pointed that out? Stephen Paul pointed out. Some tool thinks London, not the UK, just London owns America is the short of it. Yeah, that's interesting. Look, I'm not the one who made the claim, historical philosopher. Apparently that's what's claimed in the video, that he'll be the 19th president. I don't know what that meant. Yeah. Fun stuff.
Well, I mean, you can. A lot of people go so far, a lot of sovereign citizens, for instance, go so far into misinterpreting basic legal structures that are written in fairly clear language, and completely misunderstand the way the law works. It's and if you think judges aren't waking up to this bullshit, you can think again. Ultimately, the physical reality and the legal reality is going to impose itself, because quite simply judges aren't going to put up with that sort of crap. We're not going to there was there's a weird element of Australian history, actually, that our Australia became a country. The history books will tell you on the 1st of January 1901, but actually we didn't fill out all the paperwork to become independent of England until something like 1943, when somebody worked out that technically we didn't have the right to declare war on anyone. When they went back through the paperwork, and it was sort of rushed through this. There was this ratification that ran through, but nobody went back and said, "Oh, well, sorry, we haven't actually been at war with Germany for the past 4 years, or Japan for the past 4 years." That didn't happen. People quietly processed the legal niceties under the rug, and the war continued on just as before.
So, why? I'm sorry, I'm answering. I had to ask Jessica G. That's a very important question. Since she was going to spam your Discord, I was just curious if that was more sexy.
So that's what I'm hearing beeping in the background.
Yeah, that's Jessica G. sexting to PhD Tony. Why? Okay, here's the thing. Why is the term "we can declare war"? Who gives a shit? I'm fucking shooting at you, motherfucker. Why does that matter?
Well,
I get it. I get there's a whole bullshit legalese and whatever crap. If I'm shooting at you, motherfucker, we're at war. Okay.
Interestingly, I came across a piece of literature from the United States Marine Corps about that was discussing competition space, and that the United States Marine Corps represented U.S. interests, and indeed its own interests, across a variety of competition spaces, of which armed conflict was only a small subset. And it was a very interesting way of looking at it. And one of the things that they referenced was non-state actors. So you can be in armed conflict with non-state actors. And that's not technically a war, right? That's something else. But of course, it doesn't mean that the people getting shot, blown up, or psychologically or physically traumatized as a result of it are any less so, just because it doesn't have the particular label of war. You're quite right. Reality is sometimes,
Jesus Christ, Jessica.
I don't understand why it's making all of that beeping. God damn it.
You got to put on, I think if you put on streamer mode, that stops it. Fohammer 335 for $2 says Tony is citing crayon eaters. Oh, that's a mistake.
That's a paddling.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think it's funny that we can, just by definition, oh, well, it's not a war. It's a contra, or it's a conflict, or it's a this, or it's a that. Motherfucker, you're shooting. What does it matter what we call it?
I believe that I'm at war with Jessica G at the moment. She opened fire here.
She did.
Going back to what you originally asked, because all I got to say was yes, and then we got into the classroom with PhD Tony again.
I mean, it's what we're here for, really.
Pretty much. Yes, he must be impeached, if only for one reason. If we convict him, we can ensure that he never holds a federal office ever again.
Right.
And that's the important thing. Now, he should have been Section 4'd. If he was Section 4'd, then that would ensure that he could not, commit any more egregious pardon rafts
Right.
he did with the when he pardoned the 4 war criminals out of I think that was in Iraq or Afghanistan when they committed those. Or I think it was Iran.
Regardless, yeah.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
so
we know what you're talking about.
pardoning war criminals, pardoning treasonous people, pardoning people that were already convicted and actually doing time, and then he pardoned them. So we need to stop him from doing that, regardless of how it makes him look, regardless of what it does for whatever. He'll do it, and just to keep his base consolidated. And we need to stop him from doing that. We need to stop him from from basically giving carte blanche, from putting people out there that have committed egregious crimes against the country and just saying no, you're good to go because you did it in my name. So he should have been sectioned forward. Pence has no spine, and that's what that was.
Right.
But if we impeach him, we can stop him from holding federal office ever again. And then, of course, if we can get him convicted, the big thing about that is that his brood, Ivanka, Jared, Eric, whatever, all those assholes that follow him, none of them will ever hold office as well. As much as they want to threaten that they'll run for the presidency in 2024 or whatever, none of them will hold office because there are too many state agencies and international interests on this planet that want him bad. And he and his brood will be tied up in court so badly for the foreseeable future, probably until his death, that he will never escape a courtroom. And when you are hung up in legal shit, when your assets are tied up in legal determinations from now till forever, you're never going to be president. That's the reality of it. So,
right.
And all of them are attached to that because they're attached to that name. They're a part of that brand. That's true. Everything they have is tied into that. So, there's no way. But we need to impeach him. It's absolutely a must. He must be impeached.
So I would say I want to say one thing. I'm going to make one point, then I'll turn it back over to you guys.
That's okay.
I think it's time we as people start telling our elected officials that it's time to push back. We have, like I've said before on a couple other streams, that it seems as if the American stigma of impeachment of a president, like we don't want that, right? We're like, oh man, we don't want to be seen as that's a weakness. And I would go the other way. I think the fact that we are so unwilling to hold our leader of the highest office in the land to an extremely strict bar of ethics, of whatever. Like, dude, you can't do this. You can't get on Twitter and rile up the masses, tell them that, oh, you're great people and I love what you're trying to do here. You can't do that without some sort of consequence. Yeah. And we've allowed presidents in the past to push that bar and push that bar and push that bar. We need to start pushing back and start getting it back to where it's, look, you have a job to do. And if you step outside of the lines of what we think is ethically correct, specifically inciting sedition, we're going to clap back at you. And it's time we start putting our foot down.
Yes, it's I agree, and I kind of think that there's a subtle but important distinction between the two positions. JL's argument is all about the long-term political consequences of impeachment, and I think that's fine to factor that in, but that's not the reason to do the impeachment. The reason to do the impeachment is because he committed a crime. He deserves to be held account. Sure. Even if there is no, even if, as Johnny has pointed out, it is unlikely that the requisite number of votes will materialize in the Senate. Nonetheless, it's all the House can do. And it's all the Democrats can do, and it's the right thing to do. So they can do what is right and what is within their power, and that's how they should be operating. And the fact that it's unlikely to get up, that shouldn't factor into their calculations at all. In fact, I would have been impeaching Barr. That would have been my first step in all of this. would be to impeach Barr.
Mm-hmm.
Back before I impeached Donald Trump the first time, I would have impeached Barr. But they went in a different but I felt like Barr was corruptly administering his position, demonstrably, and the correct forum to discuss that is an impeachment hearing. But if you go on about how we need these long-term political consequences, then your political opponents are going to say, well, you're only in this for the political maneuverings. And I feel we need to make it clear, no, this was wrong. This was bad. This was unacceptable. And it doesn't matter who does it. It doesn't, if there's a Democrat down the road who behaves in this fashion, if there's an independent down the road, I don't care what political party you're in. I don't care what your ideology is. That sequence of events was unacceptable. In fact, more than just. I am under attack. Under attack, I tell you.
Okay, so Jeff Robertson, a historical philosopher, bring up a good point. I mean, he's already been impeached,
right?
Conviction, and yes, he's already been impeached. Conviction by the Senate is the question now. So he needs to be convicted. So we'll rephrase: he must be convicted. Yes, Tony, you are correct because he has committed a crime, even though he should have also been impeached. A second article of impeachment should have been the phone call with Georgia and trying to elicit voter fraud out of out of Georgia. That was insane. That makes. I mean, Richard, like somebody put it in there. Richard Nixon, monkey in the works. If Nixon is no longer the worst president ever.
Yeah,
I don't even think he was the worst president ever. I mean, I think that title falls to Andrew Jackson, but Trump is definitely the worst. I would argue that Trump is actually worse than Andrew Jackson. At least Andrew Jackson was transparent in his insanity and his hatred. At least we could say, okay, that there was no qualms about it. That guy is not lying to himself about who he is. He knew who he was. He did what he did. He was a terrible son of a bitch. But at least Trump doesn't believe these things about himself. So yeah, Trump is arguably worse. Like I said, yeah, he does need to be convicted. Yes, for the short term. Yeah, for the short term, he committed a crime. He should be convicted for it. We need to take a stance. We need to be harder on our presidents and more demanding of our presidents in an ethical, all
of our public officials.
I feel actually that one of the failures that we've had is of Congress. Congress has failed to provide the oversight that the Constitution demands that they provide. Arguably they have done so for some time. Whether or not you believe that argument is up to you. Jeff Roberts makes a good point. There is a chance that he will be convicted if Mitch McConnell makes the political calculation that he can separate. This may be an opportunity to peacefully to painlessly separate the Republican Party from Trump's grip. But I think that such a political calculation would be an error. I think that
let me ask you this. Do you think that this is Mitch McConnell's twilight? I think, are we finally getting tired of Mitch, Moscow Mitch?
I've been tired of Moscow Mitch for the better part of a decade.
Sure. I just mean general public, even a part of the Republican Party.
I don't think the Republican Party are tired of Moscow Mitch.
Jessica G, my goodness.
Jessica G, yes. But he is what he is, and he's been an incredibly effective agent for the Republican Party. His blockade of Merrick Garland has to go down as an enormous triumph for the Republican Party and their ideology. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but my earphones are going off.
Yes, you can hear. Daryl M says, ask him if he knows how to turn off Discord notifications. I think we know the answer to that question already, Daryl M.
I might be forced to do something to Discord. There you go. Oh no!
I knew it. I knew that was going to happen.
No!
She has a backup.
Let me see here. So, who is a historical philosopher brought up one? Andrew Jackson or Andrew Johnson? I brought up Jackson because Jackson was notorious had a notorious reputation for being very quick to temper. That people, I think the quote was that they like that his what was it? The H.W. Brands noted that he was like that his observers likened him to a volcano, and that people were terrified of his wrath. That he would freak out. He had a tendency to attack people with his cane, with his hickory cane. On his deathbed, he confessed that his only regret was that he had not killed a couple of people. I think he was unable to shoot Henry Clay or hang John Calhoun for treason. I think he had a record number of duels that he had won because he was redonkulous. So yes, he was the dude was hard fucking core, and he was also an expansionist president, and his expansion in the United States, in his eyes, the securing of the Union resulted in the deaths of many, many, many indigenous Americans. And, so yeah, I consider him like one of the, he did there was a lot of good things that he did, but there was a lot of really horrible things that he did. And of course, Johnson was also a bad president.
He liked to show everybody he liked to embarrass everybody. Johnson, like, he'd be taking a shit in the fucking White House, and somebody would come in, he would just open the door. That's not a joke. That's for real. I mean, that scene in Forrest Gump where he tells Forrest Gump he would like to see that. That's that's what they were riffing on, the fact that he would do shit like that to people.
I'd like to see that. You got it.
Yeah, here you go. Here's my ass. But anyway,
Andrew Jackson was also a vicious racist. Yes, he was.
Yep.
He was an abominable human being, as far as they go. Not to that's why the dude whose regret on his deathbed, I didn't get to kill more people, is pretty bad. That's pretty horrific. But at least he never lied to himself about what he was.
Right.
He knew what he was. He was like, this is who I am. You're gonna fucking deal with it. Yeah. At least he was self-aware enough to accept himself. So.
Right. He never apologized for who he was, for certain, and he
didn't.
Never denied the fact that he was all of those things.
Andrew Jackson, Nathan Brooks says Andrew Jackson made his horse's saddlebags from Indian skin, from the skin. So yeah.
That's Lyndon Johnson. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. That is Lyndon Johnson, historical philosopher.
Yes.
Got my Johnsons mixed up.
So.
Bad people, fucking bad people.
Yeah.
It's just a history of just bad people in the White House, man.
Yes, there has been, and what the hell is that?
Fuck was that? Somebody got like a ray gun? What the hell was that?
It was the
sounded like plastic on a packet of Fig Newtons. Was that?
Jesus, stop it!
Covering up my.
Stop it!
How's that for some ASMR?
Fucking hell! God bless America. All you need is someone in the GOP who wants to be president in 4 years and 16 of their supporters.
Well, yes,
I
except
think there's going to be enough people to oppose Donald Trump in 4 years to make sure that he's not going to be in there. He's not. let's for the sake of argument say he doesn't get convicted and whatever. He's not going to be, even if he runs again, he's going to be too old, too decrepit, and too people fucking hate his guts now.
Yeah. And I think, just by virtue, I think once we're far enough away, once we're 4 years away from it, there's enough time to look back and really examine what he did. I think it's all going to come out, and people are going to be able to look at it more objectively because we'll have people will have had time to. I mean, I honestly think that people will have had time to cool down, at least a little bit, and it won't be everybody. There will still be the fervent percentage that will just lift him up like he's their fucking god all day long. But I think that a good majority of the country will have had time to cool. That we will have had time to stop and examine his 4 years, to look at them from a bit more of an objective standpoint, and people will recognize him for the absolute trash that he was. As long as Democrats can refrain from yelling "I told you so" at every damn turn, because that will do nothing to help the situation.
Well, I have to say that it was, and here I'm going to change the topic slightly, because one of the things that I think this movement has exemplified has been, the anti-science movement, and because Trump is just completely uninterested in science. He's completely uninterested in objective reality. Mm-hmm. And so it's no coincidence that he's on the same side of debates as Anthony Riley or Nathan.
You can just say Nathan
Thompson.
You can just say Nathan.
Interestingly, he's kind of an amalgam, isn't he? He has the same anti-science attitude as Nathan Thompson and the same grifting instincts as Nathan Oakley. So he's kind of the love child if they were old enough, or maybe he spawned them both. Maybe that's the way it worked. Anyway, and I cannot help it. I want to turn to the anti-science people and just go, so how did that work out for you? Which is another way of saying I told you so, but I can't help it.
Yeah, there's no point. As long as we can refrain from shoving "I told you so" in their faces.
I mean, we could do it. We could do it every now and again. Okay.
As long as we don't ram it down their throats, we can progress from this. What was it? Let's see. Fred Knotts is the plot hole panel question. How much do you think?
What is your child holding up?
What
was your child holding up?
She was holding up a GoPro, and now she's holding up a ruler.
Oh, wow.
Oh, the infamous ruler.
Yeah.
You need to get her a Rubik's Cube. She's of an age.
Let's see. Historical philosopher says, I would argue James Buchanan was the worst president. He coddled the South, set the stage for the Civil War. Then I would say Hoover for his bungling of the Great Depression. Like I said, a raft of terrible people.
Yeah. But Fred Knotts, panel question.
Fred Knotts says, panel question, how much do you think people locked at home online from the pandemic increased the problem? Now, be very, very careful here, because I made this point before, and Tony flipped out, and
Tony didn't flip out.
He tried to praying mantis my fucking head when I brought this up, that one of the big reasons all this shit went down was because of the pandemic. Okay, the pandemic was literally set the stage. This is too many people at home, too much fucking time on their hands, and too much time on the internet, and not enough critical thinking. Okay, that is where this all came from. People who are, they don't have something to fill the time. And once the pandemic is over, and once people have jobs to get to, once their bills have come due, once this takes place, yes, the rhetoric of this will die down. Yes, the pandemic was instrumental in allowing for this to happen, because if there was no pandemic, people don't have time to fucking rebel. Rebellion doesn't pay my mortgage. It doesn't matter if you're in a state of rebellion or not. The bank will take your house. It doesn't matter. Foreclosures don't stop just because you're angry at the government. The bank will still lock you out of your home. The tow truck will still come and get your fucking car. You know why? Because that tow truck driver, no matter how mad he is at the government, still has bills to pay, and he will come and take your car. The bank will take your house. You don't show up for work, you will lose your job. They will shut down the internet.
So to summarize JL's argument, stuff will happen once the pandemic is over that will show that he is right. But it hasn't happened yet, but he's right because it will happen. It is fatuously circular in its construction and a testament to how well you have learnt off Flurfs. I don't believe it for a second. If this were entirely a result of the pandemic, Trump would never have been in office in the first place. Trump got into office because there was a groundswell of belief in him and what he was saying, even though it was complete bullshit all around.
I didn't say he got into office because of the pandemic. I said that we had tens of thousands of people descend upon the Capitol is because of the pandemic.
But hang on.
Get riled up over the year of 2020. People have gotten riled up. They've spent too much time on the internet. They have no jobs to get to. They're currently on whatever support from the government, support from the states in order to supply whatever unemployment they have. They've had way too much time to themselves to sit there in their own little echo chambers because nobody can go out. Nobody can. Everything was locked down for a good long while. So because of this, people are in their own little bubbles, feeding their own little vicious cycles until they get so angry.
Hang on a second.
That someone lights a match and it goes.
You're making the point that, or you're making the assumption that without the pandemic we wouldn't have echo chambers to get people riled up, and I disagree, because we've already seen things like Pizzagate that happened before the pandemic.
That's true, but that was one person.
Well, but hang on a second. Hang on.
Singular actors, yes, you may have that. You may have, but you will not have tens of thousands of people converging upon the state, converging upon the Capitol, in order to do these things. If it weren't,
what about the Million Man March, JL?
Right.
And all those individuals took time from their job. They did that. Yes.
Yes.
Well, but that's the point.
Because they were passionate about
hang on.
what they were activating.
What year was that in, Tony?
No, it doesn't matter. See, that doesn't matter. The year doesn't matter.
It does matter.
No.
It does matter. Yes, it does.
Okay, fine. Here's how. Hang on a second. Here's how it matters.
Our society is laid out today. It is far different than it was in the 60s.
Right. Here's how it matters. In the 60s, it was much more difficult to organize that than it is nowadays with the internet. With the internet, I can organize. As you see, we can organize an insurrection. Not saying that we're going to, but it can be done relatively easily. The internet has.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about societal views in the 60s are far different than they are now here in the 2020s. Okay, we're talking almost.
Are they though?
Years different. Yes, they are incredibly different. That is a completely different generation that you were speaking of. The generational mentality of the 60s is a far cry from what it is today. Okay, and trying to compare the two is that's not even the same sport. I mean, there's two completely different things. The mentality of then is not the mentality of today. If the mentality of then existed now, we would have much greater change, considering the fact that we have the internet and people can organize better and organize more quickly and more efficiently. Okay, but those mentalities do not exist.
Well, but the point that I'm making is that you're making the assumption that the pandemic is the reason why we had the issues that we had with.
No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the pandemic.
That's exactly what you said.
No, I'm saying no. It's completely not what I said. I said the pandemic afforded people the opportunity to do this because they didn't have anything else to do.
How is that any different than what I just said?
No, it didn't. I didn't cause it. Trump caused it. Okay, but Trump can get out there. But Trump can get out there and spew his rhetoric all he wants. But if people still had jobs to go to, if people still had bills to pay and a means to pay them, if the world turned with no pandemic, there would be no organization at the Capitol like we saw.
I disagree.
Because of the pandemic.
So, do you remember the protest marches that are, where with women wearing vagina hats? were the people who participated in those employed? Were the people who participated in the Tea Party protests? Did those just not occur?
Right. And that's kind of where I was going to go with this.
How many people are involved? What days of the week did they occur on?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It does matter. These things matter.
Okay.
They do matter. They absolutely matter. If you take a cadre of 200 people on a Sunday or a Saturday, yes, that matters. If you take 10,000 people on a Wednesday, that's a different story.
JL,
You can't make that equivalence.
Yes, I fucking can!
Yes!
Yeah!
Yes!
No, you can't!
Give me my ice cream.
So, JL, look, you're ignoring how passionate these people are about the cause that they're espousing. They're very, very dedicated to that cause. Yes, they're going to take the time off. Yes, their bosses are in many cases going to be tolerant of them taking the time off because they come from regions where employers are sympathetic to GOP causes or Trump sympathizers in and of themselves. A lot of these people don't actually own houses.
Or they're self-employed.
They could be self-employed, they could live in trailers, whatever. I don't care. You're looking at this from a particular middle class attitude, and I don't think that it's particularly persuasive. You can assert that this is the case, but your argument, your argument is based on us accepting the validity of your assertion, which I don't. Having it yelled at me loudly is not going to convince me any more than it did the last time. The reality is that these people feel that the country got stolen off them. It wouldn't have mattered. Yes, I'm certain that attendance was increased because of but to say that it wouldn't have occurred at all or wouldn't have gotten as violent, no. In fact, it would have had a higher concentration of violent offenders. Or what you're doing there is you're just cutting off the threshold of extremism for people to show up. But these people, they genuinely believe that this country is being stolen from them.
Right.
And they have believed it for decades. Right? This is not a new narrative. Trump has just crystallized it into its most repellent form. But basically, gays, liberals, and non-Americans are stealing this country from God-fearing, hard-working Americans. And that's what it comes down to. And Trump said this is the time to fight. And God damn it, well, they've been waiting for somebody to tell them that for a while now.
Jessica G for $2 says, JL is really reaching in his defense of Hellraiser 3.
You know what? The only reason these things have legs is because of my reaction to them.
Yep. That's true. Well, but here's the thing. So
but the problem is I can't stop reacting to them because if I do, people are going to think that I'm bowing out and that I'm quitting, that I've lost all heart. So if I have to, I'm now stuck in this perpetual cycle in order to let people know everything's okay. I'm okay because I'm reacting to the things that you're saying. If I just stop reacting to it, people are going to go, "Oh, is Jared all right? Is JL okay?" We're concerned. We're reacting to shit.
Well, that is true. We would notice. We would think, "Wow, JL isn't as fine." JL hasn't eaten his lettuce and he hasn't picked an argument about syllogisms today. I think it's time to take him down to the vet and give him that shot. Have him taken to the farm upstate.
Whoa.
Glue factory.
So here's the thing. I agree with Tony that this would have happened maybe it may not have been the same amount of people. I think that would have been more dangerous because it would have been more concentrated. Because the people who organized this thing were not as disorganized as people think. There are new details that have been coming out daily that show just how.
That is the scary part of it. Is that it, sort of the it's not just the a response in the moment. There seems to have been a degree of premeditation.
Yes.
That is being suggested by the stories coming out. People being given guided tours of the Capitol, and that can only happen with the authorization of members of Congress or their staff.
Right.
So there seemed to then there was a noticeable uptick in these in the days before the. So there is a level of organization, but regardless, as has been pointed out, we've dwelt on this for quite some time, and we've yelled at one another before, and we've done it again. But we can all get along. Let's move on to something like
JL's Clive. What did Clive Wells say here? He said, "JL, calm down and have a quick prayer if you must."
Oh my god. Okay.
All right, hang on one second. Somebody wants to say something.
I try to do atheist content on my personal channel, and it's quotes like this are the reason why I'm not at 500 subscribers yet.
Oh, stop!
I'm waiting to reach 500 subscribers.
Go ahead.
So, Jessica G, you okay? We're concerned about your health after your ghost encounters.
Somebody,
G,
hang on.
Ghosts are real, and I know it because there was a march to the Capitol. That doesn't even make sense.
Here's some cuteness in the stream. 1 sec.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning, Munchkin.
Have you heard of Voltron? Yes, I got Voltron toys. We were struggling to get them off, and it was the easiest thing ever.
Nice.
Finally figured out the Voltron toys. All right,
excellent.
For the legs, just button, and then for the arm, just yeet, and then that, and then on the chest.
Just break the arm off.
And then it just comes off.
All right, go eat your breakfast.
What the?
That is. You see, you say that there's no God, JL, and then Johnny O spawned that little bundle of cuteness right there. And how am I expected to seriously entertain that miraculous event occurred independent of any divine entity?
I have no argument for that. I really don't. Clive Wells, it's a Sunday, so quantum mechanics and energy prove ghosts. So, Jessica G, God isn't real.
Here's a good one.
No, this is good. Jessica G, God isn't real. However, my spirit is one with the Lord and his protection versus these ghosts.
So Stephen Paul says protests around the world with over 10K people involved. 90 to 99, there were 78, and between the decade of 2000, there were 55, and 2010 to 2020, there were 282 protests with over 10,000 people involved.
Yeah, I think there's been a sharp increase in political activism recently, and the fact that the Russians and the Chinese are working to foment political and social unrest in countries they see as adversaries can't be ignored as an influence on this. But yeah, so I was asked, is there hope for Raichi? There's always hope. I mean, but it's what I find dispiriting is that I will make a video addressing why it is that helium balloons float, or why it is that we know that gravity is the explanation for things falling, and it has no impact whatsoever. And at that point, I'm going, well, I can't educate this person. Maybe somebody else can. But it seems to be beyond my capabilities to present material in a fashion that they find persuasive. and my time is not valueless. So there's a limit to how much I've already dedicated a significant amount of time to trying to help Rachie. It's done minimal good, and I'll continue. If I'm in a chat and Rachie has a question I can answer easily, sure, I'll answer it. But really, I think she's received between myself, Phil Bell, Clive Wells, Joseph H. She's received many thousands of dollars or pounds of free tuition, I'm not prepared to indulge her that more.
So Stevie B says that it's the milkman's. Well, joke's on you, Stevie B. We don't have a milkman. Not anymore.
Oh, there's some vitriol there.
A lot of people have kind of picked up on the whole the Rachie thing. Yeah.
Rachie has decided what she wants to believe. She is not honest in her approach. Jessica G, there is hope for Rachie. I hope all of the guys with Chubby stop giving her preferential treatment and start treating her as if she was Richie and not Rachie. And she's just playing for everyone. She's just playing everyone for subscribers. That's a very real possibility that
That's
she
possible,
is.
Yeah.
Fred Knott says that she is an attention whore. I've only had one direct interaction with Rachie, and that was via Discord. And so I chatted back and forth with her a bit, and she was kind of like, I just wanted to suss out her position. I was trying to figure out if she was a Poe or not. And she asked me for what evidence I could give her. And I was like, no problem. I got this. So I'll give you this. I gave her 3 points, 3 solid points. If she looked into these 3 things, she understood them. And I said, if you have any questions, contact me, contact PhD Tony, contact anybody else. We will walk you through it if you have any questions about these 3 things. And it took her a long time. I assumed she was looking into it. When I reached back with her and I said, hey, what was your takeaway from the stuff that I gave you? She's like, oh, I haven't had a chance to, or oh, it was this. It was some excuse, or even and I think when 6 months had gone by, she finally stated something like, well, how do you know that those people aren't? It was something like, how do you know that what they wrote is true, or how do you know that what they wrote is correct? Mm-hmm. You're just taking it off their authority. It's just argument from authority. And I was like,
yeah, but that's the exact same thing that she's doing, except the people she's using as her authorities are no authorities.
Yeah, which is what led me to believe that she is a Poe. I just the fact that she put it off so long, the fact that she's had no interest in actually learning, that she has gotten like Tony said, he has given her literally thousands of dollars in free tuition, okay, to trying to educate her. She has no interest in learning. She has no interest in hearing other sides of it. She feeds off the drama that it creates. She feeds off the attention that people get her either by attacking her or by trying to give her information. So it leads me to believe that she is a Poe. She's just an attention-seeking Poe who is saying, "Oh, I can." Maybe at one point she was in the chat and she was like, "You know what? I disagree with this." And people was like, "Oh, no," or people were like, "No," because she's her picture is a hot chick. She could be a giant fat guy. I don't know.
No, she's made several videos.
The most recent development was the Conspiracy Cats made an hour-long video hoping to reach out to her in the same way that he did to Seek Truth, Speak Truth. She made a video in which she posed a number of questions to both sides. Now, I want to say people have accused her of intellectual dishonesty, and I don't think that that's the case, in the sense that I think that the use of the word intellectual in this context is inappropriate. She really does seem to have difficulty processing stuff, retaining stuff, and she's incredibly susceptible to flat earthers just saying, "Oh, well, that's wrong."
I think she's just lazy, though. I don't think she has a difficulty. Well, okay, she does have difficulty processing information, but just because she has that difficulty processing the information doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden okay. And I'm not saying this is what you're saying, but it doesn't mean that it's all of a sudden okay for her to take the easy way out. I think she's just lazy when it comes to that. It's like, well, no, that's too difficult for me to understand. This other concept over here, I can understand and get my head around. Even though it could be wrong, I'm going to go with this one here because I don't want to put the time and effort that it takes to understand the other one.
That's a good point.
Frankly, it's difficult for me to believe that she got to the end of year 10 in England without substantially more mathematical background than she has. You know, one of the people that she reminds me of, and Jessica G points this out, is Kyle Adams.
That was just about to read that one. Yeah, that's a really good point that she makes.
Who is very, very nice. He's a very, very nice individual. But he is slightly more obvious in his recalcitrance. Rachie has one trick that Kyle doesn't. She'll say, no. She says, I'll take this and I'll go away and think about it. And Kyle won't leave it like that. He'll come up with some reason why he thinks you're wrong, and then he'll go away. He'll say, well, that's an interesting point, but I still think you're wrong. Mm-hmm. And then he'll go away. And it's that it's the idea that he's decided ahead of time that I know that makes him, but they are, as Jessica says, they are basically equivalent, in terms, Rachie goes away and actually she doesn't think about it. She doesn't just digest it. She doesn't internalize it. And it's frustrating. And I don't particularly, I can't tell if it's incapacity or unwillingness, and I don't much care anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I say, I will provide information to her if it's relatively easy for me to do so, but I'm not going to go to any special effort.
Well, I apologize. I did not. To the chat pointing out that she is not a big fag, a big fat guy hiding on the internet. I did not see Katz's stream because once I determined that, or once I pretty much accepted that she was a Poe, just from the evidence that I saw, I determined she was Poe. I stopped paying her any attention. So if her name ever popped up or anything like that, I was like, nah, I'm not interested. So. Either or, don't know, but sure, she's like someone said, she's cute, but she's dumb. So regardless, I think she does seek out the attention. She did seem to feed off of the drama. It'd be the only reason that she would contact me out of the blue and ask me questions. Kind of like, why are you asking me? Yeah. But she's just looking for everybody who seems to have some little voice to pay her some mind. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. I kind of got the impression that she was either trolling or a Poe.
But she, who is it? Facty, Peachy Tony. She knows how to turn on her computer, so she's better than most flirts. She made a video response, so she's already light years ahead of most flirts.
Yeah, that's there's a I seriously think that like Kyle, Kyle is really unhappy if people call him an idiot, but objectively he's not bright at all. I would expect the average 10-year-old to be smarter than that. And their brains are a long way from maturing. He's also got some, but the more I think on it, the more they've got sort of some similar aspects. Kyle will always think about the names for things and what those names mean. I mean, he is obsessed with the fact that that Mr. Sensible's mage experiment is called mage. Invoking magic and trickery and deceit.
Yeah.
And you're just going, it's an acronym, mate.
Yes.
Get over it.
That wordplay stuff really bugs me. The whole, it's tell lie vision and be lie. Get the fuck out of here, you idiots.
Wait, what? Tell lie vision?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There isn't even a name in there.
I mean, Raichi is very susceptible to what if everybody who claims to be a scientist is lying. In her video that Baldy Cats responded to, she said, well, everybody shows the Bob Nodell footage where he measured 15 degrees an hour, but I spoke to him and he said he got a different result at a different time that he operated it. Oh, really? So the flat earther whose career depends on flat earth did something you didn't see, wasn't filmed, and he tells you it gave a different result. And that's perfectly fucking credible, is it? But everybody who works on the space program and satellite data, they're all lying to you, are they? I can't help you if you can't see the difference there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just that's exactly what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about where she'll say, well, that's argument of from authority. You're doing the same thing when you cite Bob Donnell, but he's not an authority. He's an idiot, for lack of a better term.
Daryl M says, make the next one Mage 33.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I kind of imagine that would be like the final scene from Kingsman, or the denouement from the original Kingsman movie, where people's heads are exploding all over the world. Flat earthers.
Cheers, little wolf. We'll see you next time.
That'd be amazing.
All right. Well, we've been on 2 hours now. I'm sure Tony is. What is it? It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning over there.
Yeah, he's cranky.
2:30 in the morning. Yes, I'm cranky.
He is cranky. We know what happens when PhD Tony gets cranky.
Cranky cantankerous old man.
All right, so let's start wrapping this sucker up. We had I had fun today. It's always fun listening to a PhD Tony explode.
Well, you know how to get it to happen reliably.
That's
so
true.
I'm working
on that.
You went off and you were louder than I was.
That's true.
Yes.
I've got that clip working.
I'm not sure who got loud first, but it felt like I was being yelled at. You should understand that being yelled at by me is your proper position in the pecking order, surely.
Tina Jones says PhD cranky. There we are.
That's right.
All right, so PhD cranky, what do you got coming up this week?
Well, hopefully Phil Bell will not be presenting keynote speeches at some sort of... Oh, gosh darn it. Apparently I will be dealing with spam through various every application I own. And
he's really expressing that degree from the University of
Yes, that's me. Because I've managed to silence the beeps for you, but now I'm getting them directly through my earphones.
I can hear them.
Oh, we can hear them. Yeah,
all right.
We can hear them.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like bringing the Battle of Normandy over there. Keep your head down, Chief.
There are consequences. She's got backups in case I shut down Discord. It's there's help. I'm being extorted. It's terrible. Yes, Phil Bell will hopefully not be giving a keynote speech at some important conference this week. So hopefully I will be back with Phil Bell, and I still haven't worked up the willpower to finish this relative density, because I think the flat Earth is just such a waste of time. But it's the last flat Earth thing I intend to produce. So before moving on to young Earth creationism, because I kind of think I said all I've got to say. And just because flat earthers repeat their arguments is no excuse for me to do the same thing.
Fair enough.
Jesse
JL.
G said, can J.L. Warren tell us all one of his famous bedtime ghost stories?
You guys didn't realize that movie was a documentary about J.L. Warren's room, did you?
God. It's never gonna go away.
Never gonna go away.
I can't escape it.
Nope. I already have ideas percolating the old brain here for your Halloween special.
Hi, Wells, get Phil Bell to debunk JL's obsession with ghosts. Okay, I have to.
You do seem to talk about them a lot, JL.
You do,
just saying.
It turns into like the Three Beardsmen just shitting on me.
We're not the ones shitting on you. It's the chat.
That I'm the target.
We're just reading the chat. That's all we're doing.
I have to reevaluate my position on these battle lines.
All right, what you got? What you got coming up there?
I'm just gonna hang out right here for a little bit.
What you got coming up there, JL Ghost Hunter? I mean, JL Warren.
Oh, son of a bitch!
Couldn't help it.
Well, okay. So as far as my, God damn it, as far as my personal channel, I'm currently sitting at 452 subscribers. I don't, as long as I try to do atheist commentary and people still think I believe in ghosts, I don't think I'm ever going to break 500. But if I do get to 500, I would like to do a live stream, like a 500 subscriber special. I would like to do that. Probably just go live, maybe do an AMA, answer questions about me or whatever, or try to convince people that I don't fucking believe in ghosts. Okay, do not believe in spirits. I don't.
I don't believe in spirits.
I don't believe in spooks. I don't believe in spooks. I don't. Jessica G, I'm not saying it was ghosts, but it was ghosts. Get with the spirits, J.L. Warren, Stevie P. Jessica G, ghosts are not real, but my house is haunted. My house is haunted by you, Jessica G. You haunt my house. Other than that, so that's more of a personal channel. I'm working on a couple of other videos. The ones that I have, I'm in the works. I'm trying to figure out. I never got a response from my stream as to what he wanted, as commentary on Kent Hovind. So I'm having trouble putting that together, but I have a few others in the works. I'm trying to get out. So that's on the personal channel. And then on Week in Horror, we have this upcoming Wednesday. We have our special guest, Lloyd Cryer, who is the founder of Texas Frightmare Weekend. Will be on the show, and he's a filmmaker, he's a producer, and of course he's run Texas Frightmare Weekend convention, which has been going on for the past 16 years. So kind of like the man, the myth, the legend. I actually was able to get him on the show. I was kind of shocked by that. So he's going to be joining us to talk about horror movies. And other than that, that's pretty much it. So to all of my patrons and all of my subscribers in the channel, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. I couldn't do what I do on the side without you, regardless of my personal beliefs and what I do not believe in.
Fair enough.
Apparently,
Warren.
the ghosts sit around the campfires at night to tell each other J.L. Warren stories. Thank you, Jessica G.
Jessica G. I've got unpopular opinions coming out tomorrow. I've got a couple of good ones. I think I'm not going to say it because every time I say, I think I'm going to offend somebody, they're like, nah, I agree with you 100%, Johnny. This is not unpopular. I don't want to have to say, I think Donald Trump's a great president. Anyway, so I got that coming out.
How about you go and crap on some more leading actresses? Like, I'm still going. There are a lot of actors and actresses that I will stick up for. Sorry,
we know.
simply because actors end up copying every piece of rotten fruit people can throw at them for delivering lines that somebody else wrote in a way that the director asked for. That's not their fault. God
Are you,
damn it.
are you referring to the shitting on Kristen Stewart?
He's a new kid.
Well, Kristen Stewart is an example, but I feel protective of actors in general. I feel,
don't.
for instance, that plenty of people crapped on Sandra Bullock for appearing in that crappy rom-com she did where she won a Razzie. And you just go, you know what? There was a casting director, there was a script writer, and there was a director. What ended up on camera was what they wanted to end up on camera. It's not like they're coerced into just accepting the crappiest performance she can put out there.
Yeah,
They
but
wanted what she
here's
did.
the fault in your logic there. If it were, if as it were with Sandra Bullock, which rom-com are you talking about?
Oh, I forget the one.
It doesn't matter.
I
So
forget the name.
we're talking about a one-off. With people like Kristen Stewart, it's consistent.
Yeah.
I
think Halle Berry's career based on Catwoman.
Oh yeah,
I can see the argument there, but some actors and actresses do end up being pulled in to play something that they're allegedly, that they're reputed to be able to play well. And so it can be very difficult for them to explain, to exhibit the full range of their abilities. Now, all of that being said, acting is not an easy job, and I'm pretty sure that I'd be crappier at it than Kristen Stewart, whatever the hell her name is. And I quite liked Underwater. Yes, I thought the CGI Cthulhu was a bit weird looking, but but I liked it. So sue me.
Like I said, it's not your. They put Kristen Stewart up front in that, but it wasn't a Kristen Stewart vehicle. That she was.
You know what? We're getting into something we've already talked about. We're getting into something we already talked about.
Possible. That's why PH Tony's correct on that, and because I want to end it on agreeing with him on something. Okay? Is that too much to ask?
Yes.
Otherwise, he'll be my first patron cancellation. And I don't want that to happen. I want to salvage this.
Anyway, so I've got unpopular opinions coming out tomorrow. I've got a really special Dingleberries coming out Friday. It's on Pastor Greg Locke again. It's going to be a good one. Lots of fun things working on that one.
So Fred Knotts has put out an unpopular opinion for you. Do you agree that Amber Heard is a bitch?
I've never met her, so I don't know.
Well, apparently,
given the evidence at hand, I would say that she is.
I mean, it's more likely than not. It's probably a 70-30 bitch to not bitch. Yes.
How about this? I'll throw this down because as an actor and someone who has many friends in the acting community, one of the guests on Week in Horror was Christy Corville. Christy Corville was someone that I went to film school with, and she is an actress. She's based out of Kansas City. Badass actress. She's amazing, and I hope that her career continues to take her far. But she was in a film that shot here in Dallas years ago. We're talking like early 2000s, called Side Effects. And Side Effects is technically Amber Heard's very first film role ever. She has tried to distance herself from it because it was a crap film. It really was a terrible film. But it is her first film before I can't remember the name of the one that she took off after the one that pretty much launched her. But she was in this film. And according to Christy, who was also in that movie, she was absolutely abominable when she was on set. She acted like, she was the superstar that she was the big name that she is now, when nobody knew who she was at that time. And, given her behavior then when she was nobody, and given, it only gets worse as you go along. So I will agree that she was probably a notorious, witch, and, the evidence shows that she is, given the recordings and giving the eyewitness testimony. So.
Yeah.
Colin has launched into a musical number from
Yep.
South Park, the movie.
Yep.
And I feel that deserves some sort of recognition as being very appropriate and witty. So well done, you.
Clive Wells, most of JL's actors' friends are passed away. He still talks to them though.
Wow.
How
Wow.
many permutations of this can we possibly get?
Don't
Is
worry.
this could we solve this like we could solve checkers or solve chess or solve
Nope.
Go one day?
Nope.
I don't know.
I don't think so. The amount of solutions to this conundrum are infinite.
I'm
said
not
it?
sure.
Anyway, yeah, that was just some
Okay,
babbling
Jeff
bullshit, PhD Tony. I promise it was
Jeff
not.
Roberts says, who said it, JL or Dr. Ray Stans?
Yep.
I could just leave it at that,
Yep.
and it would be funny.
Yep.
Sir, what you had there was what we refer to as a focused non-terminal repeating phantasm, or a class 5 full rimming vapor. Real nasty one, too.
Yep. And the answer is goes both ways. Anyway, so be on the lookout for that thing. I got my YouTube documentary that's still in the works. I think I finished shooting principal film next week or the week after. So hopefully I have that out in mid-February. Lots of fun. Anyway, that's time for us to get out of here. PhD Tony's falling asleep in his chair. JL Warren is conjuring up spirits of Christmas past as we speak. And it's time for us to get out of here.
My
So,
fucking head hurt.
oh, you stop it. You asked for it.
Oh, boo hoo.
I asked for it.
Apparently so. Apparently so. All right, so we're out of here. Thank you all for tuning in.
Okay. What was that? Colon. I've always thought JL was an extra large, not a medium.
That's good.
Oh,
That's a good one.
oh.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. All right, say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.